Hey friends, good morning. I'm traveling again. I'm in Tennessee, just outside of Nashville, visiting my in-laws. So I figured I'd do a little reading vlog while I'm here. I brought a whole bunch of books with me. I think I mentioned a couple videos ago I was bringing a bunch of short books for Shorty September, and I did. But I am currently reading a not so short book, which is the Fortnight in September by R.C. Sheriff. And I had gotten it into my head that I had to read this book in September. And this is a beautiful Persephone edition. I love Persephone books. Anyway, this book is about a family heading on holiday, and it kind of fits perfectly with what I'm doing right now on holiday. I'm about halfway through, and so far it's really charming. It's really about nothing. It's just a family, and they're going on holiday, where we start the story on the night before they leave for the holiday, and it just goes into detail about their daily activities. We're moving from the thoughts of family member to family member, a mother, a father, and 3 kids, 2 adult children, 1 little child. And yeah, it's, as the kids say, no plot, all vibes. And I'm here for the vibes. I'm here for the seaside holiday vibes. The language is really simple. It's not flowery. I'm enjoying it so far. It's not a stressful story. The most stressful thing that happened is wondering whether they're going to make their train connection or not. Anything that doesn't cause me stress, I'm here for. You're just feeling that first day of holiday. I'll read this paragraph, which I just came upon. I'm halfway through the book, and they've just woken up to their first full day at the seaside. There is a feeling about the beginning of a cloudless day on holiday, an excited rustling as if invisible hands were rubbing together in anticipation over the rooftops, a droning murmur that seems to come from crowds of people collecting together buckets and spades, magazines and bath towels, all trying to assure themselves that there is no need to hurry, but trying frantically all the same to free themselves from the petty little things that hold them within the shade of their rooms. That first feeling of the holiday, you want to get out there, and you're excited to get out there, but you're in no rush because you're on holiday. And just simple language, but still giving you the feeling of that holiday. I don't do much while I'm here in Tennessee. My partner does some work around his parents' house, keeping it in tip-top shape. I just chauffeur them around to Home Depot and Lowe's to pick up supplies. We go out to eat. I'm hoping to maybe visit a couple of bookstores while I'm here, so I will check in later. Good evening. I'm just checking in on my reading progress over this vacation. So last night I did finish the Fortnight in September by R.C. Sheriff, and this was just really cute. It was really charming, and like I said in my last check-in, no plot, all vibes. And I was fine with that. I really was. And like I said, we are following a family, a mother, a father, and 3 kids, 2 adult children and 1 little kid, as they head to the seaside for a 2-week summer holiday in September. And we start the story on the night before they leave. All the excitement and the list of things that they have to do, and just the hope of fun times to come. And we follow them through each day of their vacation, and it ends on them leaving the place that they're staying to head home. And throughout the story, we actually flow in and out of the minds of each member of the family. And each member of the family has their own expectations and their own reasons for desperately wanting to be on this holiday. They've been going to this same place on holiday for 20 years. The mother and father went to this place on their honeymoon and have gone back every single year at the same time of year since then. But it is just something very important to each member of the family. And we find out what each member of the family thinks about this holiday, and they're also using this time to sort of sit and think about other areas of their life and things that they're happy about or things that they're unhappy about. For example, the young son who's just left school and he's in his first job, but he's just desperately unhappy. But he can't tell his father because his father is so proud of him. This is set in the early 1930s. So once you started a job, you essentially were there forever. You were set for life. Set for life. But this young kid is unhappy. He wants more. And so we learn about that. We just learn about these characters and their deeper thoughts and feelings. And they use this holiday to sort of work things out in their heads. You really do get that feeling of being on holiday at the beach, and just those lazy days and the salt and the wind and the sand and the naps and all of the great things that come with a leisurely beach vacation. The only thing that I quibble about on this is that I didn't love the portrayal of the mother, and I can't really explain why. Everyone kind of dismisses her, and maybe this is just a product of the time, the 1930s. She was there to be a mother and to cook and clean and make sure they were properly attired, and I don't know. She did get her own pages and her own thoughts, but I just felt it wasn't as good as the others. So I felt like the mother wasn't treated with the same reverence as everyone else. So that's my only quibble. But it was just a charming story, perfect to read in September when it's still hot. I started up one of the shorties that I brought with me, and that was James Baldwin's The Fire Next Time. And it's so quick. I finished it in one day, so it's only 106 pages. And this is 2 works written by Baldwin, published in the 60s, the early 60s. The first one called My Dungeon Shook, Letter to My Nephew on the 100th Anniversary of the Emancipation. And this is a letter to James Baldwin's nephew, also named James. He's trying to express to his nephew that America may have set his destiny as a black man, but he's telling his nephew, do not forget yourself. Know whence you came. If you know whence you came, there is really no limit to where you can go. The details and symbols of your life have been deliberately constructed to make you believe what white people say about you. Please try to remember that what they believe, as well as what they do and cause you to endure, does not testify to your inferiority, but to their inhumanity in fear. He's trying to tell his nephew, your life as a black man is going to be very, very difficult, but do not forget yourself. Do not believe what the white people say about you and the narrative that they have constructed for you and the life that they have set out for you. So I thought that was a really, really powerful letter to his nephew. And then the bulk of the rest of this book is called Down at the Cross, Letter from a Region in My Mind. And this is where Baldwin is talking about the at least this is what I'm gathering from it, the intertwining of racism and religion. It starts out Baldwin talking about being a young teenager and looking at a couple of roads that his life could take. One could be the road of the drug addicts and the pimps in Harlem, and then another road could be the church. And he took the road of the church and became a young pastor. So as he went through the church and was a pastor, he became extremely, extremely disillusioned and found that Christianity, at least, and racism kind of can't do without one another. If I'm misreading this, let me know. He also made a comparison of the church and the druggies and the pimps in Harlem when he meets this pastor, I guess a very celebrated female pastor he was introduced to. And Baldwin said, when she looked at me and smiled and said, "Whose little boy are you?" Now this, unbelievably, was precisely the phrase used by pimps and racketeers on the avenue when they suggested, both humorously and intensely, that I hang out with them. Perhaps part of the terror that they had caused me to feel came from the fact that I unquestionably wanted to be somebody's little boy. I was so frightened and at the mercy of so many conundrums that inevitably, that summer, someone would have taken me over. One doesn't in Harlem long remain standing on any auction block. So basically he's saying he was going to be taken over no matter what, either by the church or by the racketeers on the avenue. And I found as I was reading this that there was this immense pushing and pulling in Baldwin's mind. And I got the impression that he was fighting between love and hate. He even says it here. When he met Elijah Muhammad, who was the leader of the Nation of Islam, Baldwin said, I was frightened because I had in effect been summoned into a royal presence. I was frightened for another reason too. I knew the tension in me between love and power, between pain and rage, and the grinding way I remained extended between these poles, perpetually attempting to choose the better rather than the worse. He hated what white America has done to the Black American. He absolutely hated it, but he didn't want to despise. He wanted to love, but I could just feel the tension. So this is my first Baldwin. I do have a bunch of his other works. I know that Giovanni's Room is a classic, and I would like to read that. I also have Another Country. and If Beale Street Could Talk. So if you've read any one of those, let me know which one I should prioritize. So tomorrow, I'm trying to decide whether I do The Princess of 72nd Street by Elaine Craft or Slow Days, Fast Company by Eve Babitz. We'll see. I'll check in tomorrow. Good night. Good morning. Checking in. I didn't check in yesterday. Yesterday was a very busy day. My partner and mother-in-law, we went on a couple of trips to Lowe's and Home Depot, and we had some barbecue for lunch. And then I went to two used bookstores here in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. One was called the Grumpy Book Peddler, and the other was called the Happy Stack. And I did get some books in both of those places, so I'll talk about those later. But for now, I'm going to talk about two books that I finished. If you can hear some tools in the background, my partner is replacing something in the back of the house, a dryer vent, or I don't even know. We come here and he does a lot of work on his parents' house to keep it in shape. All right, so I finished two books since I last checked in, both shorties. The first one is Slow Days, Fast Company by Eve Babitz, and I enjoyed this a lot. This is some vignettes that Babitz wrote based upon her life in Southern California in the 1960s and 70s. And I'm not entirely sure if this is entirely true or if it's autofiction. I have a feeling it's autofiction. A good portion of it is true, but I'm sure that some things have been embellished. But this is just so atmospheric of a time that I have never experienced because it occurred before I was born, and a time that we'll never experience again. The words that come to mind when I think of this are Hollywood, heat, long, slow days, sex, drugs, freedom, and just no constraint. That's how I feel. Well, those are the words that I thought of when I read this. And it was really quite fascinating. This is not a short story collection. This is not a novel, but it's just vignettes of certain experiences in Babitz's life during the 60s and 70s in LA. I really enjoyed it. I also appreciated all of the literary references that Babitz throws in here. Yeah, she was a party girl. She was a party girl. And she was doing a whole lot of things that many of us maybe will not approve, but she was definitely a reader because she was throwing in some Henry James and some Virginia Woolf and some Jane Austen in here. And she's an observer of life. And I hate to make this comparison, so I'm really, really sorry, but I immediately thought of Jane Austen. Jane Austen was an observer of life, and she made some observations about her culture and her people that were just blunt and biting. And Eve Babitz was doing the same thing. Okay, she was just making observations. And I was here for it. I was absolutely here for it. I do have one or two more books by Babitz at home, and I can't wait to read them. I really enjoyed this. The other book that I finished literally half an hour ago, The Prime of Miss Jane Brodie by Muriel Spark. Now this, I think I need to sit with this a little bit longer to know exactly how I feel, but my first impressions are, like, I'm wondering if I'm missing something. I know Muriel Spark is supposed to be a master satirist, and so she's obviously saying something here that I'm not catching. This is about Miss Jean Brodie, who is an instructor at a Scottish school in the 1930s, and she has some very unconventional ways of education, which at first glance didn't seem so bad. She considers herself an educator in the sense that she leads out the knowledge instead of inserting knowledge. And I was like, well, that doesn't seem so bad. What's wrong with that? That sounds kind of cool, And this is at a time where no one cares to educate girls. So she's caring about educating her girls, as she calls them. And so she gathers together this little set. It's called the Brodie set. So she picks a couple of girls where she focuses on them and brings them into her confidence and says that they are going to be the creme de la creme, whatever that means. And I don't know, I just felt like it was inappropriate. The things that she was saying and doing and bringing these children into her confidences was extremely, I just felt uncomfortable. Miss Jean Brodie was a feminist at a time that feminism wasn't a thing. And so that was fine. I didn't, find any problem with that. But she kept saying, she just had a really high opinion of herself. Well, I am in my prime, so I'm going to teach you all these things, and you're going to be the creme de la creme, and everyone else sucks, and I'm the best. It was just weird. And maybe that was intentional. That was probably intentional. And we have this as you learn later on through the eyes of her students, particularly one student, how flawed she really is. And almost ridiculous. And maybe now, as I'm talking this out, maybe that is the point. Maybe as I'm literally going through this, that is the point of this book, this teacher. She's just had such a high opinion of herself, but she really was kind of ridiculous and maybe a little bit inappropriate. Inappropriate in the way that she took these girls into her confidences and telling them things that maybe they shouldn't be knowing at this time. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. I need to sit with this a little longer. Maybe do a little bit of research about it. If you've read this, let me know what you think. What am I missing? Okay, so today, I don't know what we're doing. Weather is kind of lousy, although it finally has cooled down a little bit. I might go to another bookstore. For whatever reason, there are so many bookstores here in Murfreesboro, which is fantastic, but I haven't decided what I'm going to pick up next, but I will check in with you guys later. Hello again. I'm back with my final check-in for this week. Today is my last day here in Tennessee. I'm packing up and flying back to Boston tomorrow. But I wanted to do one last check-in before I left. I am not going to show you all the books that I purchased this week at all the bookstores that I visited, because this video is already too long. I've been editing it as I go along and it's already too long. I did film a separate video showing you the books, and I'll put that up in a couple days after this vlog goes up. But for now, I finished 2 more books, and the first one is Ethan Frome by Edith Wharton, and I no longer have it with me because I shipped all of the books that I purchased this week. I already shipped them home, and I stuck all of the books that I finished in that box. So I no longer have that with me. It is heading back to Boston as we speak. So Ethan Frome by Edith Wharton, teeny little novella, but it certainly does pack a punch. And Edith Wharton really knows how to layer on that tragedy. I'm not exactly sure how I feel about the story, and I wonder if I need to sit with it a little bit longer, because I feel like I'm putting my modern sensibilities onto a not so modern story. So Ethan Frome is about a man named Ethan Frome, and it's set in a fictional town in Massachusetts called Starkfield. And this Ethan Frome guy used to be a smart, happy kind of guy that has just been beset by one issue after another. He went off to school and was going to make something of himself. He finally got off the farm, which was a drudgery and wasn't making any money, because his father got sick. So he came home, he's taking care of his father, and then his mother got sick, so he had to take care of his mother. And then he found himself just stuck on the farm with a wife that he just does not like. Now, that's not a problem. That, happens all the time. Life happens and you find yourself in a real shitty situation that you can't get out of, and you find yourself with a partner in life that you just do not respect. That happens. I get it. What I feel like I'm putting my modern sensibilities on is his wife brings in her cousin to help with the housework, her young, beautiful cousin. And so now you have this young girl in the home, and you have the man of the house falling in love with her. And that's the nice way of putting it. And I just feel, I don't know how I feel. I just feel that yet here's another man who cannot respect his wife, and so starts going after younger women. And I'm oversimplifying this. I'm absolutely oversimplifying this, and I totally understand. I also understand that this was written in the early 1900s, where divorce was not an option. Okay, I totally get it. He can't just leave his wife and go find happiness with someone else. I am not begrudging this man happiness at all. I am not begrudging him the fact that he falls in love with this woman, because that happens. I get it. But I just feel like it's, especially when you're hearing in the news of, all these famous people, all these famous men doing the same thing. I think it just recently, wasn't it Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters that knocked up some woman that was not his wife? I mean, come on, just get a divorce. Like, there's no reason to be, chasing after younger women, knocking them up behind your wife's back. And that is not what Ethan Frome is doing. But these are just my first feelings on the book. I am probably, like I said, putting my modern sensibilities on a not so modern situation, and I'm missing the real tragedy of this book. The real tragedy is he just cannot catch a break. And he finally has this one bright light in his life, which is this young girl named Maddie. This is the one bright thing in his life. And then his wife wants to take it away from him. All right. His future was taken away by illness of both his parents, and then it was taken away by his wife. And, that I see the tragedy in it. And what happens at the end of the book, and I'm not going to tell you, is absolutely tragic and it breaks your heart. And I get that, but I found myself, I could not get over just another man going after someone who isn't his wife because he's unhappy with her. I found myself kind of like not necessarily on the side of his wife, but I was like, are you really going to keep the young girl in your house that's making eyes at your husband? No, you're not. Are you going to keep that young nanny in your house that's making eyes at your husband while taking care of your kids? That's, my modern version of that. No, the wife is not a sympathetic. No one in this book is really likable. She's not likable at all. But I found myself like, I kind of don't blame her. I know those of you who know the story better are probably screaming at me right now. So please let me know what I'm missing. I know I need to sit with this longer and maybe appreciate it more. And I love Edith Wharton. So this just probably not going to be the top of my list of Edith Wharton books. But on the flip side, the second book I finished was The House on Mango Street by Sandra Cisneros. And this was just really, really cute. This is a series of vignettes about Esperanza living in Chicago on a tiny little house on Mango Street. And I'm guessing that Esperanza is maybe a preteen in here. And it's just so beautifully written. You can tell that Cisneros is a poet. I believe she was a poet before she wrote this book because every vignette, even though it's written in prose, feels like a poem. One of my favorite sections is in the vignette called Rafaela, who drinks coconut and papaya juice on Tuesdays. Rafaela, who drinks coconut and papaya juice on Tuesdays and wishes there were sweeter drinks, not bitter like an empty room, but sweet, sweet like the island, like the dance hall down the street where women much colder than her throw green eyes easily like dice and open homes with keys. And always there is someone offering sweeter drinks, someone promising to keep them on a silver string. Isn't that like a poem? Beautiful writing. My favorite vignette is called Beautiful and Cruel. And basically Esperanza is saying she doesn't want to be tied down with marriage. She wants to do what she wants to do. And she says, I've begun my own quiet war. Simple, sure. I am one who leaves the table like a man without putting back the chair or picking up the plate. I like that. That is it. That's all I read this week. I think that is a lot, even regardless of the fact that they're shorties. I read a lot of those books, so I'm really pleased with how it went. I'm pleased with all the bookstores that I got to visit. That was fun. I'm heading home tomorrow. And on the plane, I do still have a book for the plane. I am picking up The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. And this technically could be considered a shorty because if you're one who considers a shorty under 250 pages, this one is only 244 pages. So it is technically a shorty for Shorty September. Thank you so much for joining me for this vlog. If you are still here, thank you so much. I really appreciate you watching. And so that is all I have for you today. Thanks again for watching, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.